It's about bringing value. We talk about FinOps and we talk about business value. It's not just about sending some reports that are standard, sending that information, that's it. People, technology that they have, and the process. So this is how I try to think about value. Well, a little bit of each. Customer will focus on one usually, but we try to bring a little bit of each.
Welcome to FinOps in Action. I'm your host, Taylor Hauk. Each week, I'll sit down with FinOps experts to explore the toughest challenges between FinOps and engineering. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that actually drive action. Hello, and welcome to another episode of FinOps in Action. Today, I am super excited to be joined by a guest who's had the opportunity to work with FinOps teams across many industries and levels of maturity. She's a certified FinOps professional with over 10 years of consulting experience. In 2025, she was a finalist for the Channel Company's Role Model of the Year Award. FinOps Principal Consultant at SoftwareOne, Tamara Lajara, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me here, Taylor. Thank you very much for the invite.
Oh, absolutely. I am so excited to get into things with you, Tamara, because the reality is that there aren't that many people that get the opportunity, as a consultant does, to see so many different FinOps practices in action. I'm curious, from all of the teams that you've worked with, where do people go wrong in their FinOps journeys?
True. We have first point of access to see all the learnings and the successes from the companies. I think where people go wrong is when they don't align all the points with the technology. So when they don't align people, process, and technology together, when they think about one in specific only or prioritize one in specific instead of the other ones, when they don't combine the three of them to benefit the company.
Where do you think people where do they lean too far? Like how do they fall into this trouble?
It's interesting because it depends on the organization, depends on the culture. The culture is so important, and I don't think we value enough. It's the same team sometimes, the infrastructure teams that have the same activities, have the same interest. They can be so different in different companies. Some companies prioritize technology because they see this as the main goal, the main point of difficulty, main resource that they can get. While other companies prioritize potentially the process, making everything so stuck and so standard that they cannot move outside of that. So I think it depends on the culture of the organization.
And Tamara, what for companies that are bringing you in, right, and you're working with them to establish their FinOps practice, what are the core goals that you're coming in and trying to accomplish when you're kicking off an engagement?
Yes, I think important it's about bringing value. We talk about FinOps and we talk about business value, and it's very important for the consultants when we are providing service to companies to also think what value we are bringing to our customers. It's not just about sending some reports that are standard, sending that information, that's it. I really try to adapt our hours with the customer to make sure that we bring value. We have a privileged position as consultants. We can really see kind of like an eagle eye. We can see the macro view that the customer does not has this easy access because they are so involved in that culture that they don't have this visibility. So we can see the points that they should focus or potential that would benefit them in some shape or form. And we can bring this to the customer. And this is where I think it's the benefit and where I try to get the value to the customer, bring this value to the customer.
So when you say value, let's get specific. What are you measuring?
It's interesting because value is a word that it's a concept that it is hard to measure, right? It's hard to say what it is value, really. I try to think about 4 pillars. I try to think about one, optimization. Some customers, they are really focusing to us as experts in terms of bringing savings, right? So if this is the goal, this is the objective, try to think about this. Okay, how much I can bring in terms of savings if this is how you are measuring. Some other customers' potential is governance. Potential, they want to improve this. I also think about, so it's optimization, governance, culture. Some customers, it's very interesting to see how some, usually we are not mature as some countries here in Europe, they are not mature as the United States, but we are seeing a lot of customers and a lot of increase in the maturity levels of UK and Europe. And some customers, they are bringing to consultants in FinOps, looking for improvement in their culture, looking to improve the visibility and the accountability in specific from their environment. And the last one is the visibility, which is related usually with the reporting and making sure that they have a structure to bring this. So again, it's trying to align all those, the people, technology that they have, and the process. So this is how I try to think about value. Well, a little bit of each. The customer will focus on one usually, but we try to bring a little bit of each.
It's interesting, right? Because I think that one thing that we really have going for us in this industry, right, in FinOps, is the fact that the value can be so real and tangible and like seen, right? Because we're talking about dollars and cents. And it's funny that when you start talking about money, people's ears, kind of perk up and you can get their attention pretty easily. And how do you see, like, the reality is that at the end of the day, the savings, right? The tangible cost savings, cost avoidance that you drive within these FinOps programs, that's how you're going to get measured, right? But it's the people, the process, the governance, the reporting that lets you see and feel that value. Where do you see it all coming together?
I think a lot of we are measured by values, it's how we present ourselves. If their FinOps team, if the person who is doing FinOps is presenting themselves as I just bring value, I just bring optimization, I just bring the savings, and these are all the savings that I can do, you will be seeing and will be seeing FinOps as this. I would like to think that FinOps is more than this. It's really about how can I improve the cloud state? How can I improve the process that we have in place? Potentially tax, for example, will not bring a short-term value to the organization. They will need to sit down, think about this, making sure that they are implemented, make sure that we have some automation in place, right? If you think about this, we'll just be spending time from the engineers that could be doing some right sizing, like something different. But in the long term, the improvement that those tags will bring in terms of visibility of the cost, right? In terms of the accountability that will bring, hopefully will bring a lot more savings than just those hours that the engineers were just doing that short-term work.
It's a great point, right? Because the effort that's spent on, say, implementing a mature tagging strategy, you don't see the direct ROI from doing that, not right away.
Yes, true.
But it pushes that accountability, right? And then when you have these savings opportunities that come up over time, you'll know who the owner is for a specific resource. And it helps you drive those optimizations in a more efficient way.
Yes, and that's why I think the FinOps team should also be more clear in terms of, look, all of this tagging, for example, as you mentioned, the maturity of this tagging, this was my work. I support this. I help create this. So if they are seen not just as someone that bringing the optimizations or being seen as a paying for the infrastructure team, for example, if they are seen as supporter and making sure that they see all these other benefits, all the other improvements, they will not be seen just for the value of the dollars.
Let's talk a little bit about this, right? Because one of the points that you're hitting on is getting that buy-in from engineering teams to work with you along this journey, even when the value isn't immediate or apparent. How do you get these teams engaged and kind of to come along for the ride?
Yes, and this is another point in which understanding the culture and finding the right motivation, it's very tricky. I have seen customers before that they were very interested in sustainability, for example. I have one in specific that really surprised me. Major industry, a huge organization, global. They were really interested. The engineers, they were just thinking about sustainability. They were not thinking about how much they are saving. While some other ones, they were very much cost driven. I have one right now, one customer that they are very driven by positive reinforcement. So they like to be seen as, look how much I have saved to the company. So if we just do some simple boards, which were kind of like in the beginning from FinOps, right? Something that if we just do some simple boards and put their name in there, they will start to compete to make sure that they hit that board because they want to be in that list, to be seen as, look, I did all this. So it's really about finding the right motivation and driving for these supporters, for these teams.
It's such a good point, and I've actually experienced this as well, right? Because I mean, for me, I won't lie, I'm financially motivated, right? So when I see the dollars and cents, and I've had hands-on roles, implementing optimization strategies, making infrastructure changes, designing applications to be cost efficient, and like seeing the dollars and the cents, the financial impact, that was very motivating for me. But when you start working with other people, you see not everyone is the same, right? And I actually had a similar experience to what you just described, where one of the engineers that I was working with didn't seem to care all that much about the cost savings that were being shown. But when we brought in the carbon impact, right, then all of a sudden he was more motivated to take action. When he saw that, when you shut down a server as a basic example, or even move from, one instance type to another, there can be a carbon impact, and that could get him moving. Although, for someone else, it might be all about the money.
Yes, true. And even with our leadership, we talk about getting the buy-in, right? About being able to show what we do. And even to our leadership, I think we sometimes we disregard their motivation and we think that it is just about the dollars because it's clear because we are driven by this. So the other people should be driven by this, right? It's a logical association, but it's not true. I have more than one customer that came to us paying more for us to drive in culture, to drive other aspects of FinOps in their organizations. They were not caring about the optimizations at the time. They say to us that their focus was on the culture or something else. So it's very interesting how, yes, we do these associations automatically, but we should rethink from time to time.
Do you think that for that specific customer that said, "Hey, I'm not worried about optimization yet. Let's fix the culture." Do you think that's because they had the longer term view that setting up the culture would lead to greater impact financially later on?
For sure. This customer specific, yes, they were in the process of migrating a lot of their workloads from data center to the cloud. They knew that it would increase. They knew that there would be moments in which this would spin out of control. And they say, I need to make sure that the base is strong, which is so clever, which is so right mind and the right mindset. I need to make sure that the base is strong. So when this moment happen, I know exactly how to fix and who do I need to look for.
And in this case, was their organization, were they new to the cloud in general? Like, were they, or had they had a cloud footprint and then we're also doing lift and shift migration?
They are hybrid. They have a cloud footprint, but they are increasing their cloud footprint. They are slowly moving more and more to the cloud. So they are aware of the cloud, but they were not cloud native.
Yeah, I guess that's where I was kind of leading towards, right?
Yes.
Because one thing, as a consultant, you get to see, I'm sure, is working with organizations of different levels of maturity, perhaps even different experience in terms of the, human resources that are involved. How do you see the difference? Well, number one, have you worked with companies? Is my assumption true that you see both cloud native and maybe legacy data center folks that are now working in the cloud? And what's the difference between the mindsets of the two?
Yes, I think the cloud native organizations, they are quicker and to realize the importance of one FinOps and the importance of some aspects from FinOps that sometimes it's not very clear for a company that comes from data center. When we are coming from data center, we are thinking about capacity management. We are thinking about making sure that we have space that we are not thinking about, for example, using the benefits of instance scheduling. In a company that is cloud native, it is thinking about, I just need this machine to be on when I need it. I don't need more than that. They are also thinking about how much this cost will impact in my product or my service. So they are way more connected to concepts like unit economics. I feel like they are quicker and more agile to realize the benefits from FinOps than sometimes some other. Of course, it's just a generalization, right? There are exceptions, but
And when you're working with these companies, regardless of their level of maturity, from your perspective, who is it within these organizations that you want to really partner with, that you really want to, grab and evangelize into the FinOps way?
it's so interesting because, yeah, I keep repeating, but it's so interesting because it depends on the culture of the organization. Sometimes we have companies coming to us looking for FinOps from finance teams. We have procurement teams. We had the normal as infrastructure. We had FinOps. So it really depends on the dynamics inside. I have one customer right now that, for example, again, it's the culture. I have two customers that are in the same position that they are doing some reservations right now. One customer, it's a whole process that they need to get a lot of approvals. They need to they need to get all the values correct before they raise all these forms with finance. They have a long and very structured process. While the other one, they sit down with me. What reservations do we need to do? Let's do it now. Start to do it. That's it. Done.
Which method do you prefer?
It's just a culture, right? With the other one, with the customer that it is more structured, more formalized, I would like to talk with finance to make sure that they understand the benefit, make sure that they understand when they are receiving these forms, what it is really, that it is not a normal CapEx in any shape or form, and understand the benefits of doing this. While the other one, it's more direct, it's more straightforward. They understand the benefits, they know what to do it. Yeah, and they do it.
I kind of want to get tactical here, right? Because reservations is actually a topic that I think gets brushed over and seen as quite simple, when in reality, it can be more complex. When you're making these reservations, Tamara, who are you consulting with before you click what many would call the most expensive button on the internet?
It is the most expensive for sure, and it is a very, yeah, delicate the button, as you said. So again, if we have a structure in which the costs allocate, right, and we have some, for example, I know that this workload belongs to a team in the data and AI, for example, I can go to this team, discuss the reservation with them. Let's talk about the life of this workload. Let's make sure that we understand how long this will last, right? If everything is under infrastructure, for example, I know that the team that I need to talk is infrastructure. I know that need to sit down with them for a few hours. It's not something quick because we need to talk about this. What we are going to do, how long are this for? Are you sure about this? Now, some customers, they have this finance blocker. So I need to sit down with finance. Like I said, that finance is one that is interesting to say, okay, we have this, we want to do this CapEx. How much can we invest on this? Because they will also tell me how much, right? Potentially, I will not have all the reservations that I want to do it. So tell me how much so I can really focus and making sure that I'm investing on the right ones, on the ones that will bring me more discount.
I'm most interested right now in talking about those conversations on the engineering side, right?
Yeah.
Where, I guess I'll tell you where I've seen it go wrong. I've seen folks commit to inefficient architecture or inefficient resources, and then they're stuck with them. How do you make sure that you're avoiding that scenario?
Yes. And I have seen that as well. I have seen crazy high levels of commitments just because they would bring savings. And then you go there and try to do any change and it's impossible because they are stuck in that. How we try to do it is really working with them. So when I say that it is a few hours, sometimes it is hours to discuss because it's not something simple. And again, following the low hanging fruits, we try to go for the ones that let's see which ones can bring more discount. Let's make sure that we hit those first. Let's see how it is a big. Always when I'm talking about optimization, when we are talking about things, I always try to think more strategic in a way that, okay, seeing your whole bill, where is that I can make most impact?
Yeah.
If it is, I have customers that virtual machines not even the third in the list, So it's not through there. They already have something there. So I try to be strategic in terms, okay, let's see where we can get more benefits if it is virtual machines. If we want to do commitments on this, because all the right sides are done, and this is usually, we have kind of like an order, because I don't want to do commit everything first just because it's a big savings, and then, oh, we had this right size to do.
Yep. Lift, shift, and commit.
I know, exactly. Which is the normal, right? Because it brings more savings, so why not?
And by the way, the cloud providers account teams like to tell you about the benefits of these reservations, right? And that's where you get into this lift, shift, and commit, oftentimes 3-year commits, where then you recognize probably within year 1 that you could have made decisions to be more cloud native with your architecture decision.
And that's why I mentioned about the value of consultants, because it's not just about bringing why they do this, because it shows a great number, right? A great look, I saved you this many millions. But when you go deep, did they really save this many millions? Or they got, like you said, stuck in an old architecture, in something old that they cannot change now? Or that they will lose some money when they change, because yeah, potentially they could, but they will lose money on this. So that's why I mentioned that it is not just thinking about the optimization per se and just thinking about savings, is thinking about how can I give visibility for the people that should see this and should make sure that they are able to commit. Because yeah, potentially it's not the infrastructure team who is pressing the button, potentially it is some other team. How can I reach them? How can I change the culture inside to make sure that they know that they will spend these hours with me? Because a lot of people think it's a waste of time, right? Just send me the list of reservations. No, I want to make sure that these are correctly done. So it's not just about savings, it's about all the other points: visibility, governance, culture. Yes.
I mean, essentially, from my perspective, you need to make sure that when you commit, you're committing to optimized or efficient, resources. And that kind of leads me into my next point that I want to discuss with you, and that is optimization, right? I mean, the reality is there's all the culture, there's all the people, there's all the processes, there's all the governance. Let's talk about the money, the savings, right? Let's find ways to save money. Let's do cost avoidance.
Yes.
How do you find cost savings opportunities?
Yes. I always check the customer, because there is no customer. It's very funny because we say that and usually thinks, that's so silly. Of course, this is on the top of the service, right? Of course, SQL database, they're expensive. They are in the top 5. Have customers that they were not top 5. I have one customer that, for example, Log Analytics was the third most expensive service that they had. How? For a company that was not cloud native, was not doing high level of logs analysis or anything like that, or customer like analysis marketing, it was not the case. So it really goes into focus on this customer and how my expertise can bring savings for them. So I check, okay, let's see where it is. Is virtual machines? Let's work on virtual machines if this is the high spend. If it is SQL database, let's work to make sure that this. I have one customer that has a nice, that I nicknamed the SQL monster, because they have a SQL instance that it's a legacy, and they are using that as kind of basic as the data lake, and all the new developments, all the new apps that they are creating, that they are building, everything is on top of that. And that monster is just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And because they don't want to touch that, it just goes out of control. And it's very hard when it is out of control to anyone to stop that. So it's really a case in, okay, we need to focus now. We really need to think about this, not just short term, how we can make this work for you in the next year, 2, 3 years. Let's make sure that we have your data safe, we have your data in a proper architecture, so you can work on this and get value from it.
But how do you build out like a backlog of options? Let's say you come into a customer
Yeah.
and they tell you, hey, I got to cut $5 million out of the business. By the way, we get this all the time, right? At 0.5. We got to cut $5 million out of our budget this year. Well, what are you doing? How do you get started on that?
I check their bill first. First and foremost, I check the bill. Where are they spending this 5 millions? Where we can see, can we see something that would be easy and low hanging fruit that would help us on getting this? If we cannot, if it is something that we work, let's work together to get this. Usually, I am very privileged because we are in a consultants and we have a team of experts. So I can work with, if it is something like that needs re-architecture, that needs modernization, we can work with this with a cloud team. I can work if it is something that license related. I can see that they are spending a lot. Let's make sure that we go for the right contract. Let's make sure that we focus on the license aspect to reduce this bill. And I can bring someone from the team that is specialist on this. So it is a team effort because sometimes it goes beyond just FinOps to get this 5 million or whatever magic number we have in mind. But it depends on the customer. Yeah.
I like that answer because essentially what you're saying is you need the experts in the services. You need, frankly, really smart engineers that understand how the services work, how the application is configured, what are the design constraints to help identify these optimization opportunities and validate them, right?
And align with the customer. It's not just them saying to the customer, this is the right way that will fix it, right? It needs to be a proper conversation. And I think that's where we from FinOps also bring the value because we bring this collaboration. Sometimes I feel like because they are experts and they are so good at what they do, they come to the customer and just, this is how you should do. And the customer potential has something that is blocking them. How we can work with this blocker, how we can work with these challenges.
Yeah, and there's just so much data, right? And the reality is that data is the answer to everything. And when it comes to, these billing models are so complex and there's so many configuration options that are available for any given service or resource, right? And there's a math equation somewhere that tells you the break-even points of all these decisions. And it's just a matter of getting that data and checking. But number one, someone who's not technical enough won't be able to get that data. And number two, oftentimes you're operating at such a scale that it's not even potentially feasible for an individual to go and find it all.
True. And potentially we have, because customers are so involved with their day-to-day operation, they are so much in this operational view, they don't think about all this strategic and this other side about best practice and about how to do this or alternatives that they don't see this. So it's kind of like bring this to them and make sure that we collaborate with them to find what best applies to their environment to hit this magic number or not. I love that data is the answer for everything. I will use that. I will print and put in front of me.
I mean, the reality, right, is that like when you're working with engineers sometimes, and I don't blame engineering teams for this at all, but there's this thought, it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And you have to recognize that in a lot of ways, they're right to feel that way because if they're being judged on how, responsive their application is or uptime, right? Make sure that there's, no performance issues on the downstream application, then they're not going to be inclined to go looking around for ways to reduce the resources that are powering their application. But that's where data is the answer to everything. And if you can present them with the data that shows them that it is a safe choice to, make a change and that it would save them whatever the amount is without impacting that performance.
Because otherwise, yeah. And I think there's also the aspect about modernization, right? That we mentioned before. Otherwise, the ain't broke, don't fix it. We end up with things that are legacy and they are running in the way that people don't understand anymore how it is, just for the sake of making sure that it is production. We don't touch that.
Tamara, on the topic of modernization, right? I'm going to throw at you a future-looking question, and I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
AI. Everyone's talking about AI right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you see as the impact of AI on FinOps? Do you see FinOps getting more important or less important due to AI?
I think it will be more important, but it will be more important in these aspects that we don't AI will never be able to do. It will be more important in terms of making sure that people have the right visibility to the right data, making sure that we control the costs, not just on the dashboards and not just on making sure that cost anomalies are seen, making sure that we know when something's going up, it's because of usage, it's because of a proper anomaly, things that AI cannot really do well. And yes, I think it will be more on the soft aspects of FinOps that will grow the importance instead of the technical.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's the thing, right? We are seeing more and more customers coming to us with questions about AI deployments, questions about even when we need to bring the experts in terms of AI to make sure that we understand the architecture and everything that it is involved, because so many layers, right, that we are talking about. It gets more and more complicated to estimate the cost. It gets more and more complicated to find optimizations. But I think this is where AI can help FinOps. All the talk about explaining this to the customer, making sure that the customer talks with the right people. This is what AI cannot help us, and it needs us. Yeah, it needs FinOps.
Amazing. And Tamara, it's going to be so interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, with the pace of innovation, it's happening so quickly, and it's going to be fun to follow along. And I know you're going to be there for the journey.
Imagine in 2 years we can do a recap. Yes.
Yeah, prediction comes true. But Tamara, before we wrap, I do want to touch on one important thing, right? And I touched on it briefly in the intro. I heard you were a finalist for the Role Model of the Year award. Can you tell me about like what tell me about this award?
Yes, I was a finalist for the role model of the year in the award from the Channel Awards here in UK. It was a lot due to my work in terms of mentorship. I support some mentorship programs. I think it is very important that I'll not even mention about women, right? About us, that we are in a privileged position in terms of being experts, making sure that we pass this knowledge. We talk about AI, right? Look how AI, at least in UK, is reducing the amount of graduates. We're seeing this in the news every time, the reduction of graduates coming to the workforce. It's making sure that we pass this support to younger generations.
So talk to me. I mean, how have you gotten involved in mentorship in different ways? And when someone comes and they talk to you as a young person trying to, get established in their career, what is it that you tell them?
Yeah, I got involved through different ways. One was the FinOps Foundation, which I highly recommend to everyone. It's very well organized and it's an amazing program. But I also did through Crayon and SoftwareOne, right? Um, and how I talk, it a lot. I feel that a lot is about confidence. Of course, it depends. I don't want to generalize because again, it depends on the person. But a lot on the young generation is about the confidence, making sure that they, when they go, I have just one mentee that came to me and she asked me that she was going to meet someone. She's in a career transition and she's going to meet someone that it is a expert on this career that she wants to focus on. And she was like, "But how should I do? What should I do when I meet him face to face? It's my first time meeting someone like that face to face. How should I behave? What should I dress?" Silly things that people don't really ask, like that they will not trust someone, they will not ask colleagues, they will not ask their potentially their managers, their leaders. And something that, yeah, as I mentor, I have freedom to talk with her and to kind of like guide her, making sure that no, don't worry, you don't need to pay for her coffee. She knows that she's not expecting that. Making sure that you ask this, make sure that you ask that, and just yeah, having someone as a sounding board for what they yeah, make sure that they don't think that they are imposter, the imposter syndrome.
Well, Tamara, I think that's so great, and there's so much that you've learned through your career and your experience, and paying that forward to folks that are coming is so important and valuable. And I'm so glad that you were acknowledged about that great work that you've done through the Role Model of the Year award. So congratulations.
I didn't win. Yeah, thank you. I didn't win. Just to make it clear. Yeah. But thank you very much. Yes.
You were a finalist, and to me, that is a great testament
Oh,
to the
thank you.
fact that you're doing great work. And again, I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone that you've talked to through your mentorship appreciates it. And hopefully today the listeners have the chance to learn something from you. Thank you so much for coming on the FinOps in Action podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Taylor. It was my pleasure. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. And to the audience, I hope that you learned something today. And thank you for tuning in for another great episode of FinOps in Action. Tamara, again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
This has been another exciting episode of FinOps in Action. See you next time. That wraps up another episode of FinOps in Action. Thank you for joining. For show notes and more, please visit finopsinaction.com. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that actually drive action.